because it was certain environments that I stayed out of because those particular environments made me angry. Like people say, what's wrong with playing pool? I never said there was anything wrong with playing. I stayed out of the environment of pool halls because it seemed like everybody, instead of enjoying playing, they wanted to challenge one another at playing pool, and they attached money to it. And so within an environment like that, you have a lot of guys and women with egos because they want to win. And there's other people around them who they don't want them to see them lose. And so you're dealing with ego, you're dealing with reputation, and also you're dealing with how everyone around you is going to think of you if you just so happen to lose. And so whether you realize it or not, you become a slave to everyone else's opinion. When you have an anger issue, you're dealing with an individual who is angry because of the effects of the environment. And the majority of the time, this person becomes rigid and irritated tremendously. It seems like he's this way all the time because he is not in understanding of why he's feeling this way. And due to the fact that he doesn't have anyone around him as an uncle, as an older sister, as another family member, in order to pull him to the side and say, why are you feeling like this? What's going on with you? Let's go for a walk, let's talk. Due to the fact that you don't have those outlets in order to seek counsel, it means nobody around you is noticing that you have an issue. To them, you have a problem, which is a misconception, which is a misperception. I recall a night where I was sitting in my room. This was after all of that. I was sitting in my room and I was so angry. And I started grieving. And I went into my great-grandmother's room. And she was sleeping. And so the lights in her room was out. And we used to call her Grandma. Grandma used to always keep her door open. And when you go into Grandma's room, there was this little black chair on the right side, inside of the room. And so there was something about my grandmother that made me feel secure because she was everyone's security. That she was everyone's security at home. And so I'm sitting there in a chair and I'm breathing silently. So I'm breathing. And she laid there and she said, out of her sleep, I thought she was sleeping. She said, DA, what's wrong? I said, I'm angry. And she said, what are you angry? I said, I don't know. I said, and I'm angry because I don't know why I'm angry. And I told her, and I'm tired of feeling like this. And so she's still laying down. And she said, are you sure you're angry? I said, yeah, Grandma, I want to change. And she said, if you really want to change, she said, start right now. She said, if you don't want to be angry anymore, She said that start right now. Right now. What did Yeshua say? Go and sin no more. What does no more imply? Stop it. Right now. Right now. She said, only you can stop it. Only you can stop it.
Come, boy. See for yourself. From here, you will witness the final destruction of the Alliance and the end of your insignificant rebellion. You want this, don't you? The hate is swelling in you now. Take your Jedi weapon. Use it. I am unarmed. Strike me down with it. Give in to your anger. With each passing moment, you make yourself more my servant. Good. I can feel your anger. I am defenseless. Take your weapon. Strike me down with all of your hatred, and your journey towards the dark side will be complete.
I'm going to make this video very brief. This is just a follow-up of the previous video that I did, which was the part 2. But this deals with pretty much the same subject. You know, the environment and the conformity to the environment and living a life, walking through life or venturing through life and not conforming to that which is going to cause you destruction, and therefore in your embracement of it, it turns into a choice of self-destruction. So as we venture forward into our living experience, we have to always understand that the primary challenge is going to always be ourselves regarding our conscious choices. I been away for a minute because my health hasn't been too well. I've been dealing with a whole lot of exhaustion. You know, I tend to deal with a lot of exhaustion a whole lot, not simply because of my job, but because of my writing and the thought process and meditation and everything. So a little bit too much of anything is not good for you. So I haven't found out exactly which one of those that I'm doing a little bit too much that's causing all of the exhaustion. But in time, as always, it'll be revealed to me. But this is not going to be long. But considering the video footage that I put before this, you notice I put a scene from Return of the Jedi, which is a Star Wars movie, where it had the Emperor trying to convince Luke to allow his anger to consume him to the degree that he make a conscious decision against his own being, simply because the emperor has pretty much given himself to his own anger, to his own rage. He wants Luke to follow behind him as an example in order for Luke to destroy himself because he have previously destroyed himself. So in terms of my video when I was talking about my childhood and everything, how things affect you when you are in your younger times as you're growing up and you don't necessarily have the proper influences around you to help you understand exactly what you're feeling on the inside and the reasons why you're feeling a certain way. You just are a intellectually and spiritually sensitive child that's going around absorbing all of these um, entities within the environment that are making an impression on your mind and spirit. And by you're not being intellectually um, and spiritually at the point of knowing exactly what's going on around you, these things are easily making an impression on your mind and your heart, and therefore your intellectual status, simply because you have not reached a state of maturity yet of where you will be able to come in contact with knowing what's going on with you in order for you to resolve those issues yourself, simply because you have conscience of what's going on um, inside of you because of what has been going on in your environment. So this is why I've always appreciated Yeshua's message, which was a message that encourages a whole lot of self-examination, even though it hasn't been taught as such in the churches. You know, they tell you to look outside for this devil, and you know, you hear people constantly saying the devil is after me, and the devil can't defeat me, and the weapons that are formed against me by the devil will not prosper. You know, the church and religion itself has tricked everyone to think that this whole demonic presence is outside of them and is attacking them, trying to destroy them, trying to influence them to say or do certain things, when this demonic presence has always been inside of us. It was created inside of us for the sake of learning who and what we are, whether our destiny falls either on one one area of the being which is considered good, or the other area of the being which is considered evil. So everything is within us. And the moment that a whole lot of us start to understand that as long as you're looking outside of yourself and not within, you're never going to understand exactly what's going on with you. And coming up in Chicago, I was surrounded by a whole lot of people who were miseducated. I grew up in a household to where it was a whole lot of things transpiring, and as I said, that home was the results of a whole lot of failed marriages, and so we were all subjects of people who had failed marriages, who just so happened to um, cultivate kids from those failed marriages. And by my great grandmother being, you might as well say, the big mama, as was in demonstrated in Soul Food, she took on all of the children because she didn't want all of her grandchildren and her great grandchildren to be lost in the wilderness and therefore succumb by the evils of those wilderness or those killing fields. So even though that was a good intention of her heart, it still gave birth to a home of where there was a whole lot of chaos going on, and there was a lot of people there who held um, related titles like um, sister, auntie, uncle, and all of those things. However, the the relationships in which those titles were based upon was absent. And so this is one of the reasons why um, chaos was within the home. And even when there wasn't any verbal chaos going on, as I said before, the effects of such cultivated a constant state of tension within the home to where only I was picking up. I was picking up these these um, these things that were going on in the home because I had a very um, sensitive and aware mind and spirit, and so I was affected by um, most of those things. And so it's like whenever I saw the movie Soul Food, the young man in the movie when the chaos was going on, and the young man broke down and started crying because he was saying like, "Why are y'all always arguing? I mean, what's going on?" And then everybody stopped and they were staring at him, looking at him like, "What's the matter with you? You're the matter. You're the issue." So when you come up in a environment as such, and you're a child that is constantly, um, you have this natural instinct of wanting to live right, think right, and to do right. You're in a environment to where it is actually a battlefield and therefore a war zone of principles of what you should do and what you should not do. And by you not being mature and aware of a whole lot of things that you should do and a whole lot of things that you shouldn't do, you become a victim of coming up feeling conflicted because everything around you is so complex because you don't have any guidance. You don't have um, people around you that are demonstrating what their related titles are supposed to be based on. And it's like I was saying, you don't have a father that comes around. And when he did come around, he didn't do anything but criticize. So you're left to learn all of these things upon your own. And I had someone who had sent me an email, and they had asked me, was there anyone else in your position in terms of the way that a whole lot of your friends had viewed you um, as? I gave this I gave the sister two examples, and I'm going to give it to you. There was a guy named Antoine. I had mentioned Antoine before, and he was a mixed guy. I believe his mother was white, and his father was the same mixture that Bob Marley was, because Bob Marley's dad was white, and his mother was black. And so with those type of mixtures, Antoine came out looking mostly European. However, he identified himself as black. Now, he was the one who we was calling white boy, white boy. He had called out in Jesus' name, "Oh Jesus, please help me." And when I saw that, as I said before, I knew that something was wrong with what we were doing. There was another young man. He went by the name Chester Long. I would never forget Chester Long. He was actually Chester Long reminded me of Stevie Wonder when you look at him because he wore these real thick glasses, and a whole lot of people, um, for some reason, they would say that he was either indifferent or he was retarded. However, he was smarter than a whole lot of us, even though he was in special ed all at the same time. So obviously, there was something going on with the educational system, either that they didn't understand or it was something about Chester Long that we didn't understand. I didn't have a problem with Chester Long, and Chester Long never had a problem with me. But whenever we would read out loud um, in our fifth grade, fourth grade, and fifth grade class, particularly in our fifth grade class, when I had a male teacher under the name Mr. Patterson, rest in peace. Whenever Chester Long would read out loud, he would sound like a narrator. He would sound like a narrator. And Chester Long was teased because he was considered an eccentric, so he acted accordingly because he was an eccentric. And so he would, Chester Long was different. He was different. And what made him different was because we were brainwashed to perceive of what was considered normal in our environment. And anyone who didn't fit into that category of what everyone else said was the norm, those people were considered indifferent. And so I didn't fit into that category as much as Antoine and Chester Long did, but I was still considered um, abnormal after, as I said before, after Oscar Hand came into the picture. All of a sudden, I was considered um, different. But they had asked me what happened to Chester Long and Antoine, and I had explained to them and they had also brought up the 50-year friendship. Who was the one who thought of that? And I was to find out that it was Oscar. He was the one who came up with this whole 50-year reunion of friendship, and that another reason it had explained of why I wasn't thought of to be um, invited. But that's fine. I'm just explaining. Um, I'm just giving you the answers of the person who wrote me the email. These are the answers that I gave them. Now, as far as the 50-year friendship reunion, in particular, whenever you are considered an eccentric and a different type of human being, people like myself, people like Antoine, and people like Chester Long are not looking to be a part of that because of the way that we were perceived and the way that we were treated. And so this is one of the reasons why home training based upon a moral um, status is so much important. And you have to raise your children to treat everyone as human beings, in spite of them being um, considered different. Now, people like Antoine and Chester Long, um, I've been trying to find them brothers for years and I can't find them. I spent one day with Antoine. I don't remember Antoine's name, but we have a MacDade school um, group on Facebook. MacDade was the name of our elementary school. And Antoine is on one of the pictures, and someone had asked about Antoine. And I had told them I spent one day with Antoine, and I had a chance to talk to Antoine. And this is the reason why I know Antoine's nationality, because I sat up in his living room and I listened to him and his grandma talk about his parents. And I recall his grandmother was talking about how he was treated coming up because of his appearance and everything, and how they were planning on eventually moving out of the neighborhood. And um, I don't recall them ever telling me where they were, where they were going to move. And so this is one of the reasons why none of us exactly know about Antoine's whereabouts. We don't. We also don't know about Chester Long's whereabouts. But the reason for this, I just wanted to touch on this because the way that you treat people, what you do, you rob them of the opportunity of reuniting themselves with the people in whom they came up with, in terms of um, school reunions, um, friendship reunions. The way that these people are treated, they shy away from reunions because they don't want to re-experience what they did in their past. Now, people may say, well, it's because they're holding on to their past. No, it's not that they're holding on to their past, as mother and sister Maya Angelou said, and I misquoted it in my other video. I'm going to be careful and quote this correctly this time. She had said, people will forgive you for the way that you treated them, but people will never forget and forgive you by the way you made them feel. So when you're young and when you are faced with a whole lot of unpleasant experiences that affect you emotionally and psychologically, those things will always make a very lasting imprint on your mind and therefore your personality. And through the impact, certain convictions are developed, culti- cultivated in your mind, and these convictions are equivalent to this like protective shield that you have around your thinking process when it comes to um, not being interested in allowing yourself to venture into certain, um, I would say, opportunities to reunite yourself in certain atmospheres of where you feel as though there is a possibility of being made to feel those same feelings again. So it's just a form of self-preservation. You come to the point of where you have healed enough to accept the fact that all of those things happen, and you have chosen to heal enough to the degree to where you're actually able to move on. And so when you come back in contact with the possibility of coming in contact with certain people again, due to the fact that you've grown these to develop these convictions that your whole life is pretty much guided by, based upon your will to protect your peace of mind. You feel as though it is not best for you to go into those atmospheres again, because you would rather not. Take a chance on being made to feel as though you felt. been as though you were made to feel in the past. You have to excuse me. I've been dealing with a lot of exhaustion, and I'm actually struggling to get through this. But I put that footage of the Emperor telling Luke, um, when he said, "You want this," talking about his lightsaber, don't you? The hate is swelling in you now. He told him, "Take your Jedi weapon, use it. I am unarmed. Strike me down with it." And then he says, "Give in to your anger." And then he said, "With each passing moment, you make yourself more my servant." So you have to understand, even though these are two characters, you have to understand those two characters are manifested for the movie. However, those two conflicting entities live inside of each and every human being. Because in each passing moment, you are giving into anger, you making yourself more a servant of this demonic force that lives inside of you. So this is why he's saying, with each passing moment, you make yourself more my servant. So I'm going to cut this short because I'm still dealing with exhaustion, but I'm going to close this out with saying, um, as you venture in a whole lot of different directions in life, you're going to come in contact with people, and make certain that you treat people like human beings, because you don't want to have such a bad impact on other human beings that you create monsters out here in this society. And there was a sister that had wrote me an email, and she was talking about when I said that my only regret was my great grandmother not living long enough to see how much I've developed as a human being. And she asked me, what was it that went down in particular your life that made this come out of you? Well, there was a day of where I was in my bedroom, and um, another thing about me is when I was young, I didn't have anyone to help me understand what an introvert was. And so you're dealing with a child who who had anger issues, and you also had a child who was an introvert and didn't know that he was introvert, that he didn't like being bothered. So there was one particular morning, my mother just came in and just interrupted whatever I had going on, which is something that she used to do a whole lot. I'm just going to be totally honest with you. I couldn't stand my mother when I was coming. I just didn't like her. You know, she was always keeping chaos going on. But one particular morning, my great grandmother had to go to the doctor, and she had to go into a specific area over in a black and Puerto Rican neighborhood that was right next to this high school that was called CVS. CVS was a high school that was almost 2 blocks long. However, over there, there was predominantly the black community and a Puerto Rican community, and it was a community of this gang called the El Rookins, and there was another gang called the Vice Lords. And so there was always some gang violence going on over there. And simply because I was um, a martial artist and a boxer, um, my mother asked me to go over there with my great grandmother, that she would be able to go to the doctor check on her health. So that made me very angry because, as I said before, I had anger issues, and I was an introvert, and the majority of the times I didn't like being bothered by people because this was after the effects of everything that I was talking about in the previous video. So what I noticed with my great grandmother is that she knew that I wasn't just angry; I was enraged. I mean, it wasn't physical, but she knew that I was I was angry. I was enraged, and it hurt her feelings. Even though she didn't say that it hurt her feelings, I could look at my great grandmother and tell that she felt like, don't he understand? I need him here with me for my protection, and they had confidence in my protection over my great grandmother because of the environment. The environment was so so violent. But even then, I couldn't, due to the fact that I knew that I was sent to be her protector. I couldn't humble the rage inside of me because I just didn't want to be bothered. I was a kid who had anger issues, and I was an introvert up on top of that, and didn't know what an introvert was. I didn't know what being an introvert was. I didn't have any understanding on different levels of anger or rage or anything. I was totally ignorant of these things, and all of this inner turmoil was going on inside of me. However, it was being used in order to protect my great grandmother, and I had no knowledge. So as I got older, and I learned what meditation was, I meditated on that particular day, and it helped me understand it exactly the conflict that was going on inside of me. And so this is why I had said that my biggest regret was um, her not living to see how much of a better human being that I have developed into being because of my learning of myself and my effort to learn um, not only about anger, but what anger is, and finding out what I was coming up in terms of being an introvert, because I could never understand how come I don't. There are times I absolutely just don't want to be bothered by no one. Now, a whole lot of people would say, well, it's probably because you're an Aquarius and your sign, But to me, if I can perceive that there's something that is wrong about um, certain aspects of my personality, if I'm unable to change those aspects of my personality, I could at least try to understand it, and through understanding, I'm able to govern those aspects of my personality um, a lot more effective. And so it took me a long time to come to understand those things. So yeah, but when it comes to coming in contact with how we treat one another as human beings, that is very, very important, because especially in our childhood, because as I said before, our minds are very fertile. and our feelings are very fertile and everything. And it takes some of us a lot more longer to mature, and it's only because of the environment of having people in your life that's actually paying attention to you instead of criticizing you. People are paying attention to you instead of condemning you and calling you evil and all of those things. Because my two particular sons, I'm always paying very much close attention to them, and I'm always asking them, "Why are you okay? You feeling okay?" Blah blah blah. And see, the whole thing is the reason why I pay very close attention to my sons is because everything that I've come to know, I had to find out on my own. I had to find out these things on my own. So I'm going to cut this short because I need to get some more rest and getting ready to start my work week. And so, with that being said, everyone have a pleasant day. I wanted to go further into this, but just don't have the strength to do so. Right now. So I'm just going to lay it down, and everyone have a good rest of your day and stay human. The conditions are set up. It is us who choose to make our conscious decisions based upon what we do. The same when Yeshua was led to the desert by God. And all of these things were put before him. A lot of people say, oh, the devil did that. But he was led to the desert by God. So the dual component said, all of these things I will give unto you if you will fall down and worship me. And he chose the righteous component of himself. And then that's when God said, this is my son, within whom I am well pleased. He chose the God that was within him and not his demonic side. And in the process of submitting, he did not become a convert unto himself. And therefore, he didn't become a narcissist. He still gave the Creator all of the credit and the praise. That's to humbling yourself. that area of video, few people were asking me about that. The dual component that lives within all of us, because we, as I said before, were created by a God in which has a dual essence. As I always said, it says in the word, I created peace, I created good. I created good, I created evil. I, the Lord, created all these things. This is the Creator taking claim of creating both entities of good and evil, which is created and therefore imbued in every living human being and every animal. There was a woman, and also brother has said, Jesus was perfect. And you know, the term perfect needs to be utilized very, very carefully, because none of us, in fact, knows what perfection is in regards to the organism. You're never going to find it of the organism. And I say that because in spite of the moral status that Yeshua was currently, the Creator still saw fit and necessary for Yeshua to be led to the desert, therefore the wilderness, to be tempted. Now, just to use the term perfection in the content that is always being utilized, anything that is considered or deemed as perfect, obviously there is no necessity to put it through any type of test in terms of tempting it one way or the other. There's no necessity. However, Yeshua obviously still had some areas of his being in which needed to be challenged. I won't use the word tested like so many of us use. And the reason why I never use the word tested is because the Creator is the all-knowing and the all-wise. So let's just say, when we were coming up in school, we were given information to take home and study. And our teachers would tell us, you're going to have to accumulate this information because you're going to be tested on this information in a couple of days or next week or whatever the case may be. So the teacher is not in the position to where he or she knows exactly who's going to pass this test or not, because the teacher are not the all-knowing and the all-wise in terms of their students. So when I used to hear a lot of pastors say that Yeshua was led to the desert to be tempted of Satan or tested, they would sometimes use the word tempted in the same context of implying that Jesus had to be tested. Okay? So the reason why I bring that up is because the Creator is the all-knowing and the all-wise. And therefore, to say that the Creator led Yeshua to the desert in order to be tested is to imply that the Creator did not know if Yeshua was going to be successful in this challenge or not. So basically what I'm saying, the same way that the Creator had observed Adam, and after it had created everything on the earth, and it said that this is good. However, when he observed Adam and he saw the state that Adam was in, so obviously Adam was lonely or Adam was sad, something that the Creator saw with Adam, to where the Creator had saw that, but it is not good that man should be alone. So bring that up because obviously the Creator had observed Yeshua as a human being and saw that there was something going on in him, which was the dual in which every human being is created. And so he had to be led by the Creator to the wilderness, to the desert, to be tempted. Now, a lot of people may say to be tempted by Satan. As I said before, we were created as dual components from a Creator, which contains a dual essence. So, due to the fact that the Creator knew this of Yeshua, who was a human being, he had to go through a process. He had to go through a process. So, when he was in the wilderness or the desert, a whole lot of worldly things was presented to him. They said that he had fasted for 40 days and 40 nights. And then the tempter had came to him, which is starvation, the effects of starvation. While he was at his physical weakest point, here comes starvation. And it triggers, it transmits certain thoughts to your head. And I'm going to deal with that in a personal experience tonight. And so Yeshua was hungry. And therefore, after 40 days and 40 nights, he was starving. And so the dual component that lived inside of him had said, if you be the Son of God, turn these stones into bread. Now, a lot of people, they say, and a lot of pastors, I've heard a lot of pastors teach it, that Satan has showed up as a man and stood before him and said, if you be the man of God, then turn these stones into bread. I disagree. There's no reason for a manifestation of this mystical character named Satan to stand above him who was starving and said, if you be the Son of God, turn these stones into bread and eat. Wasn't necessary because Yeshua had a dual component that was implying that inside himself. So the challenge was, am I going to stay on this righteous path, or am I going to fail in this challenge? Am I going to fail in this challenge? Am I going to wait on the Lord, the Father, to come and give me something to eat? So currently, he said, man shall not live by bread alone, but out of every word out of the mouth of God, however it's said. Yeah, I know. Well, you know, he didn't even say it right. Go ahead and be petty. Go ahead. My whole implication of my particular videos is to simplify what has been taught in the church, and it's been taught in the church in such a way, it's been taught such a clever way to where a whole lot of people are fooled. They were manipulated. So the point is, he waited and after starvation had left and he survived the time of the challenge, only then did the Creator say, he claimed him, this is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. I am well pleased. Only then was he ready. He was at his lowest point in terms of his organism, and he still rejected. He still rejected help. And so after that, it is written that after that, God sent angels to minister to him. That doesn't imply that they were preaching to him. To minister to him, it meant that some people had came. God had sent some people with food and everything, and they took care of him. They nursed him back to health. In comparison to this, when I was in Georgia, and I was dealing with this woman, as I said before, under the name Salam Yilma. I had gotten to the point to where I wasn't able to take care of myself. I wasn't even able to buy food. So by her knowing this, she took all of the food out of the refrigerator and took it upstairs to her bedroom. She put it in this cooler that she had. And so there was a time I went for 2 days without eating. It had gotten to the point to where the tempter had came to me, which was my own demonic dual component, and said, why don't you just go up to one of these grocery stores and just steal you something and eat, feed yourself. I even went to the point to where I looked up Google, and what I looked up was the time that you would have to serve in Georgia if you got caught shoplifting. I was so hungry, I was starving so bad, I was willing to risk my freedom by way of the possibility of being caught shoplifting in Georgia. I looked it up, and it said that you would have to serve 1 year in jail in Georgia if you are caught shoplifting. So I was even willing to do that, to sit up in jail in Georgia for 1 year, simply because I almost gave in to the tempter, which is starvation, this demonic influence trying to influence me to go and steal, which was the demonic presence that is sitting up in me. Now people may say, well, it's because she took all of the food out of the kitchen. She took it upstairs. Well, that's equivalent to someone saying the devil made me do it. No. She didn't come in contact with me and say, why don't you go up to the store and steal you something to eat, because I'm not giving you anything to eat. Even if she did, the conscious decision to do so would have been me, not her. So I suffered through that, and I was going halfway into the third day of not having anything to eat. And so what had happened was, I would get up early in the morning and I would walk, I would say, up to 5.5 miles to this area outside of the store, which is called, it was a tool store, Lowe's. And in the parking lot, there was a lot of brothers that were always standing around waiting for people to come with their trucks to take them to do some work for them, and they would pay you like $50 to $60 a day. That way you can get something to eat. So I walked 5.5 miles. I spent up to 5.5 hours over there, and I wasn't successful in being. So as I was on my way walking back, I still had this mindset of, hey, you can't keep this up. You're going to have to do something to get you something to eat, because you can't go on like this. You can't go on like this. Now, my so-called rational mind had agreed with this transmission that was coming from my demonic side. You're going to have to do something. You're going to have to do something. And so my so-called rational understanding had agreed with that. Yeah, you're right. As I'm walking, my mind was saying, yeah, you're right. I'm going to have to do something. I'm just going to have to go ahead and risk walking in Kroger's or wherever out there to get me something to eat, because I can't go on like this. I was looking at my body. I was losing a whole lot of weight. And so as I was walking up the street, there was a Jamaican restaurant that was having a grand opening. So, and they were having a grand opening outside. And so as I kept walking up the sidewalk, this huge Jamaican brother. He saw me walking and he said, brother, brother. And I looked around and I didn't think he was, I assumed he wasn't speaking to me. And the reason why I assumed that he wasn't speaking to me is because I was so consumed with grief and humiliation and hurt. I felt like you can't be talking to me, because of the way that I was feeling. I didn't expect anything like this to transpire. And I looked at him. He said, yeah, you come here. So I went over to him and said, would you like a plate of food? He said, I'm having a grand opening here. He said, I want to give you a plate of food. So I was like, yeah. He said, don't worry about it, bro. And as I walked towards him, he put his arm around me. And he led me into the restaurant. There was people sitting outside eating. And when I went in there was a sister in there who was making everyone's plates. And what I noticed about this brother, those styrofoam containments, they had three sizes, small, medium, and large. I noticed he grabbed the large one and he told her, fill this up. He said, what do you want? And so I picked out what I wanted. And she filled it up. And he gave her a medium size. And he said, I want you to try some of this Jamaican food. And next time I see you, he said, tell me if you like it. So they already gave me a large container. So the medium container was food that he wanted me to try, which implied he knew that I never had any Jamaican food. Obviously, he heard my accent. My accent wasn't the Jamaican culture. And so he put it in a bag and he handed it to me. And I said, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. He said, hold on. Along with that, he gave me this big 5 liter of Pepsi. He said, here, take this as well. And he walked me out and we walked past everyone that was eating out there. And I turned around and I told him, I said, I really appreciate it because I'm going through something right now that I don't quite understand. And he said, brother, it's going to be okay. He said, don't worry about it. He said, don't worry about it. I bring this up is because when I was at my lowest point, and right when the tempter had came to me and told me, go ahead, you're going to have to do something. You're going to have to. You can't go on like this. The Creator inspired that man's eyes focus on me as I was walking. I was walking in the curve of the street. And the Creator inspired this man, flagged me down, and to do all of that for me. So this brother was the angel who came to me and he ministered me. He took care of me. He took care of me. So my thing was, in bringing all of this up, is because I have to say that I failed because my mind, my so-called rational mind, had became in harmony with the tempter who tapped into my starvation, who was my area of starvation inside. And it leaned mostly upon my demonic component and not my righteous component. However, as I was moving forward and I had made up my mind that I was going to side with that demonic presence that was sitting up inside of me, and I was just going to go and steal something that I may be able to survive, the Creator saw mercy on me and compassion on me. He sent this brother to me. And he saved me from myself. So the whole thing is, Yeshua was able to wait, and he didn't fall under the powerful influence of his demonic dual component inside of him, which was connected to his starvation after he fasted for 40 days, 40 nights. He said to that demonic presence, "Man shall not live by bread alone." So the reason why I said that I failed that, but the Creator showed mercy on me by sending this brother to me to show me, even though you failed and you were getting ready to risk your freedom, I understand your struggle. I understand your challenge. And so I'm sending this brother to you to give you food that you may not have to suffer so much because you were betrayed. And due to the fact that you were betrayed by her, you were put in the position to where you had betrayed self because you leaned upon the demonic presence inside of you, and you were tempted by way of starvation to compromise your moral standards. So this is why I said we are responsible for the conscious decisions that we make. The environment, the situation is cultivated around us by circumstances, whether they're good or bad. And despite what is presented to us in terms of the way that we perceive things within these circumstances, good, considered good or bad, whichever one of those we choose, it is still the direction that we made up our minds to consciously venture into. This is why in The Devil's Advocate, he said the direction that you took, in spite of the circumstances that was created, we are responsible for the decisions, for the conscious decision that we make. But imagine, I said 2 days, it was going on my third day. Imagine a man in the desert fasting 40 days, 40 nights, and still sided with his divine nature not to think and make up his mind in the way that I did. he said, man shall not live by bread alone. Incredible human being, incredible example. And this is why the Creator had to send Yeshua through that. And Yeshua submitted to go through that. I didn't submit to go through that. At that time, my mind was, this is her fault. She took all of the food out of the refrigerator, took it upstairs to her bedroom with the intent to starve me. However, whose responsibility is it to take care of this woman in spite of what she did? It's my responsibility. Yeah, what she did was evil. She could have showed mercy. She could have showed compassion, but she chose not to. And due to the fact that she chose not to show me any type of compassion or mercy, she still is not responsible for my thought process to go and risk my freedom to steal and possibly get caught and spend 1 year in jail for shopping. It's easy to blame someone else. And due to the fact that it's easy to blame someone else, that's what makes it dangerous. The ease of it is what makes it dangerous. We are responsible for what we decide to do in this life experience. The only devil and demonic force that is sitting up in that is in the world, it's sitting up inside of us. Take responsibility for the decisions that we make. Take responsibility for the conscious decisions that we make upon ourselves. I thank the Creator God for showing me mercy and compassion when it sent that brother in my direction, because I was going down a very dark path because of the circumstance. And like I said to him, I'm going through something that I don't quite understand. I don't quite understand. And due to my current misunderstanding of what was happening to my life, you had better believe I was heading to jail. I was heading to jail. And the Creator knew that, even though I didn't know, because I was in a misunderstanding. And due to the fact that the Creator loved me so much, even in my misunderstanding, this is the reason why He sent that brother to save me from myself. So, for some of you who misunderstood when I was saying the dual component, and that there was no devil manifested, and showed him the world, all of these things I will do for you if you fall down and worship me. Falling down and worshiping your demonic side will lead you to either the grave or that jail that I was leading myself to. So basically what I'm saying is, when Yeshua was tempted by the tempter, he was tempted to do something unholy that he may be able to feed himself. However, as you already know, Yeshua waited on the Lord, waited on him. Now, when I was walking up those streets, was my mind as Yeshua's? I'm just going to wait on the Lord. Nope. My mind sided with my demonic. I'm going to go up here in one of these stores. I'm going to steal me something because I need to eat. That's where my mind was made up to do just that. And as I said before, the Creator had mercy upon me, compassion upon me. He sent that brother to save me from myself. So my whole implication is the way that was presented to me. When I say there is no devil but us, because the conscious decisions that we make is based upon the dual essence of which we were created. As the Creator said, I created peace, I created good, and I created evil. I, the Lord, created all of these things, and we are an extension of the Creator. And so by the Creator being of an dual essence, so are we. It is us. So this demonic force, this devil, if you want to call it that, it's us. It can either be us or we can motivate ourselves and we can go by way of our divine essence instead of the demonic essence that is sitting up inside of us that's just going to destroy us, cause us to destroy ourselves. So this is why I say the only way that we are going to create a better world in which we are going to be able to live in, we have to become better